welcome one and all to our first Experience Point episode since the resurrection
The resurrection
of TSG, the Solo Gamer Podcast. This is an Experience Point for, you should have heard the lovely theme music for Bioshock here in the opening of the show. And it's a little bit different. So I don't know if we have anyone listening that didn't listen before, maybe. So if you're out there and you haven't listened to the show before you found us in our current version of ourselves, this is kind of like a book club. We all agree beforehand to play a game. Sometimes it's a game we've all played. Sometimes some of us have, some of us haven't. Sometimes it's one none of us have had the chance to. So we just love doing this, kind of switch these things up, and allows us to really dive deeply into a single game that one or all of us felt was noteworthy in some way. So we are doing Bioshock today. But let's welcome everybody in. Taylor, another week, my friend. It's great to see you. I'm glad to have you here. I'm excited for today's episode, dude.
Yeah, no, super excited. Always great to be back with you guys for another week. And I'm super excited for the Experience Point, man. I feel like in this new season 2 or 3 of our show, I think it's really cool that we're bringing this back. And this is honestly, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the flagship show. I love the numbered episodes, but I really love the Experience Point, man. I just love playing a game together, having like a shared experience, and then just like talking about it. I don't know. There's something about that conversation that never gets old for me. And I'm excited to talk about this one. This has been a long time coming for me. So
yeah,
I'm excited.
It's kind of amazing you made it this long and it wasn't spoiled, right? The story, the twists and turns. That's like impressive. I would say it's close to the level of somehow not playing KOTOR and not knowing the twist at the end of that. So that's cool.
Somehow
that's super cool that you were able to do that.
Yeah, I'm honestly pretty jealous.
Yeah, well, and that silky, sultry voice you're hearing is Kyle, and this is your first ever Experience Point, man.
Yes.
Welcome in.
Thank you. This is exciting. You know, I've listened to a few of them myself, and I'm excited to be involved with it. It's kind of a fun little project, and I'm excited to hear. Yeah, thank you. I'm excited to hear your experience here, Taylor, because this is definitely a game that's near and dear to my heart. And like I said, I'm really jealous that you get to experience this for the first time, man. That's exciting. It's like, having like
it is
like your first Reese's Pieces peanut butter cup or something,
Right? Yeah.
That's so hyper specific,
dude. That's who I am, man.
Everybody remembers where they were at when they had Reese's Pieces.
When they had the collab, Reese's Pieces, Reese's peanut butter cup.
That's like the first thing that came to my head. I was like, what do I love so much that I wish I could try for the first time again?
Hey, you know what? That's valid, actually.
Awesome. I haven't had one of those. Are they still making those?
Reese's Pieces?
I guess I should. Yeah. I guess I meant like just Reese's. Leave out the pieces.
Oh, part. Okay. Well, okay. So that would have been just like a good analogy then. The reason I laughed so hard is because
they actually did make that. Actually,
they made a Reese's peanut butter cup with Reese's Pieces in it, and I thought you were like, bro, this is like the first time you've had a Reese's Pieces collaboration Reese's cup. I was like, wow, that's specific.
Oh, dude,
I didn't know you carried such an esteem,
such a
love
passion
for the Reese's Pieces.
Dude, specifically the pieces, man. Oh god,
that's so funny to me.
I'm just word vomiting, man. I don't know why I threw pieces in there.
Dude, it's like your first time you ever had a chocolate cookie Twix. Oh no! What a way to start this show. Oh my god! Okay,
we gotta clip that. That's gotta be a clip.
Safe. Well, good. It'll be easy for me to find it. It's right at the beginning of the show.
All right.
Yeah, this is. I would agree with you, Taylor. That Experience Point is my favorite thing to do. I think it's because it's not every week, and so it feels a little special when we do them. I also get so excited to start playing a game for Experience Point.
Me too.
Sometimes I get a little stressed out because it's like I'm taking too long, but we do a pretty good job of not rushing it. It's like, hey, this is the game. Take your time. We're all working full-time jobs and have people in our lives that need us, and it's crazy. So remove the stress from it. Dogs, oh yeah, they're people. I included them. I was thinking about them and Alicia, but I love this, and I actually think this will be a great episode because I think the three of us have very different relationships with this game, and we'll get into that a little bit, and I'm excited to explore that. So a little basics before we get started on the breakdown. Bioshock was developed by Irrational Games and published by 2K, released in 2007 for the Xbox 360. Did it come out on the PS3 at the same time? Excuse me. There was a bunch of games back in that day that were coming out for 360
in
first, and then
betweeners.
came to
It
PS3
had
later.
to have. It had to have.
I'm sure
it did.
Yeah. I'm sure it did. It's very much an Xbox game in my brain, but I know it wasn't. It definitely was not a exclusive. It's just the way that I remember things. Yeah, and it was a really huge deal. It was one of the first games I remember. I used to read Game Informer. I still do now that they came back. But I was a big Game Informer reader back in the day, and I feel like I remember this is one of the first games. I'm trying to just kind of go through my head and think about games of that era. That was just like everywhere I went, from Game Informer to IGN, GameSpot. It was just like 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 9, 9, 10. It was like, whoa, I got to play this. And I was too scared to play it at first because it kind of presents itself as a horror game at first.
It does.
And so, I don't know. I just remember thinking, gosh, this must be great. And I went in expecting a lot. And then it for the most part, it lived up to it. And I think that's why I've always really loved it. So that's kind of the basics of it. Currently, Ken Levine, the creative director and the writer of Bioshock and Bioshock Infinite, has his own studio now. I think Irrational Games either closed or did they close? I think they got closed down.
Yeah, I think they did.
And he's not. I think his studio is called Ghost Stories now, and they're making a game called Judas. Which, if you look at Judas, it looks like Bioshock in all the best ways. So it's kind of a combination. The interesting thing is Ken Levine also wrote and directed System Shock 2 in 1997, 98, something like that.
I think 98.
98
sounds right.
Which is also kind of a first person. I don't know, survival. It's not whatever you call this genre.
Immersive sim, maybe.
Sim. Yeah, I think that's a great term. That is probably the correct genre. Immersive sim shooter. And of course, he never got to create the sequel to that. And it's not a coincidence that this is called Bioshock. The first game he made was System Shock 2. So it's kind of an interesting, he kind of co-opted it, and it was like a spiritual successor almost. So just some interesting history before we dive in. The question I've been waiting to ask, I haven't asked you a thing, Taylor. I'm actually a little nervous because you're a good poker player, man. You didn't give anything away. You could have been over here and been like, I fucking hate this game. These two idiots. So tell me what you expected going in, what you knew going in, and how did it live up to your expectations? How did you feel about it just generally? Give us your kind of your high level thoughts.
Yeah, well, first off, I think the best place to start is with the genre itself. And it's actually kind of a genre of video games I really don't have a ton of exposure to, which is that immersive sim genre, which I feel like back when Bioshock came out wasn't really a term that was thrown around that often. I almost feel like the only time I've really heard the immersive sim genre or title thrown on something had to have been in the last less than 10 years is when I really started hearing it. So it's always been like a genre of games that I've really wanted to get into. And I've always felt that Bioshock was kind of like, other than maybe System Shock 2, of course, like kind of the progenitor of that sort of genre of games. So I've always been kind of mystified by it and curious by it. So I went into Bioshock knowing that this is a super legendary game. Obviously, for somebody who's not even really in that genre or knows a ton about System Shock or Bioshock, everybody seems to know Ken Levine. He's kind of one of those auteurs, in the games industry who, even if you haven't played their game series, you know a little bit about the history, a little bit about the guy and kind of how meticulous he is at crafting his worlds and how specifically he likes to design gameplay systems and how they interact. So I went in like fully expecting this to be a really not gameplay driven experience, but one that I think was like maybe 75% gameplay, 25% story. And I went in finding that it was a really, really good mixture of both. It's a game that I feel like shows its age in a lot of ways, but not ones that I felt like were bothersome or annoying. And I really, really love the story and the world. Actually, one of the things I wish I knew a little bit more about was I wish I played the game and really got immersed in the actual like gameplay of it, but some of my understanding of the story and like the overall themes, I'm still kind of piecing together. I know that there's a lot to do with like Ayn Rand and like philosophy that kind of goes into it. So a lot of those things I didn't really get the first time around. So I'll be excited to hear like what you guys think about some of those themes and motifs and how they play into the story. Um, but yeah, I really, really liked it, honestly. I think it was a great place to start to get involved in these, this genre. And it was fun. I really, really had a good time with it. And I feel like it was very perfectly paced. It did not overstay its welcome. Nor did I feel like it was like a slog to get through. And I had a blast. It was really, really fun. Definitely lives up to the hype for sure.
Oh, I'm so relieved
I love
to
it.
hear that.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't convinced that you weren't going to like it. I just really had no idea.
Yeah.
So it's like one of those things where if you really, really love a game and then you show it to someone, you're like, oh, I hope they don't like, it's like, oh, this sucks. Like a little fear in the back of your mind. But honestly, even if you did, it would just make it interesting to hear more about why you didn't. Kyle, when was the first time you played? Do you remember the first time you played Bioshock? Kind of when that was, and then link that up with your experience playing it this time. Like, how long had it been? What were the things you forgot? Like, how are you feeling about Bioshock after playing it so recently? And just kind of catch us up on your history with Bioshock as well.
Yeah, I think it took me a lot longer. I'm pretty sure you played it first, and like most times in my life, you you reached out and told me how great of a game it was, and eventually convinced me to play it. So I think I was pretty late to Bioshock. Gosh, I don't think I had, because I don't think did I have the PS3. I'm not quite
How
sure.
much longer was it after the release that you played it?
It was maybe like a year or two.
Oh, okay.
So you were still in high school.
Yeah, still in high school. I'm thinking PS4 though is when I played it. When I got my PS4. But yeah, I remember expecting it to be a pretty damn good game. And obviously, like right off the bat, the opening scene is just like, it's so mind capturing. It's like you're immediately plunged into this horrible accident, and then it immediately sets the tone of like, this is going to be a slightly scary game, and you're not quite sure what's going on. I mean, I remember stepping into that door the first time and how terrified I was. And then when it closes behind you, it does a great job of that. And then the submersion into it, where you're going into the city of Atlantis, or in
Rapture.
Rapture, but it's Atlantis essentially. But yeah, yeah, I just remember just being so captured by that in the beginning, and then the story is so fantastic, but I don't think that the gameplay sometimes gets talked about enough, and I think that's when I played it this time was what really like stood out to me, because obviously I already know the story. I know what I'm expecting here. So that's not necessarily what I was paying attention to. What I was more worried about is like, how is this gameplay going to feel now? Is it going to still be relevant? Which obviously, you know, I'm still thoroughly impressed about how intuitive and natural the gameplay feels. It's got a really great environment that kind of really invites you to utilize everything. And there's a lot of stuff you can do, you know, whether it's, you know, utilizing hacking or utilizing your weapons and focusing on upgrading that, or, you know, focusing on upgrading certain powers, some really unique, weird powers. I know you really like utilizing the bees.
Fucking love the bees, dude. It's like one
Not
of
the
my favorite
bees.
things ever.
And I love how you can interact with the environment with like the different elements and stuff, and you know, even using the telekinesis to like do some unique things where you can't get into a specific room, so then there's some puzzle solving where you got to get a little creative with your powers. All of it, and none of it seems. I think it's like really hard to like find that fine line between creating something just to create something and have something there of like, oh, we have a variety of things to do. Well, that's great, but is it fun to play though? Does it make sense? And this game really nails that. There's never really like a power that I felt like just didn't make sense or didn't fit and I didn't enjoy using. It's like you can really have a lot of fun and play, you know, a completely different play style depending on, you know, what you want to do, and you can switch it up at any point. They're all kind of equally strong in a way. So I think, you know, this time around is like, you know, the first time I experienced Bioshock, the story is what captured me. In fact, it was, I remember mentioning this to you, Ian, you know, back in high school, of like just running up to you and being like, that's like the first time I've ever had a game truly grab me by the heart and make me emotional. I was in complete shock at the twists at the end. I've never had a game at that point in my life ever do something like that for me, where it emotionally stuck with me. And it taught me kind of a life lesson in a sense. And I think that's kind of the part of the story, right, where there's a lot about philosophy, like you were saying, Taylor, and really makes you think about societal issues on a deeper level. So yeah, I mean, so this time around is just like, you know, I wonder if the gameplay still kind of stands. And that's the thing that I really liked about it the second time around, is like, the gameplay is just so much fun. Even though I know all that's happening or what's going to happen, it's like I'm still enjoying hacking robots and interacting with like vending machines. They're still kind of funny to me and quirky and yeah, I just love this game. So I'm really happy that you liked it, Taylor.
Yeah, the vending machines made me laugh. Like, for some reason, some of them never got old. Like, I always found myself chuckling. Especially the one. There's the one ammo. Yeah, I'm like, what the hell is he saying? Like, I know like a fair bit of Spanish, but I'm like, it just sounds like.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's, oh man, we could get, there's so many rabbit holes we can jump down, but like that is so intentional, right? That is very much like, it's sort of a period piece, right? It's like 1958, I think, is when it takes place. I mean,
yeah,
and this is obviously a very white place for the most part.
Yeah.
As far as like the power structure and Andrew Ryan, it's right from 1958, and no one had any qualms about making an incredibly racist vending machine for ammo that didn't even speak Spanish. It
was literally just gibberish. Yeah,
this is bad. Gracias, amigo. It's just like, so it's like exactly what you probably would see something in 1958 in some, if you were to play a pinball machine or something in the 60s.
Right.
It still kind of happens today where we, you know, whitewashing things. Like, I don't know if you remember, I think it's a Subway commercial where they were like,
oh, dude, you and I, that's like
we would make fun. We would rip that all the time. It's muy delicioso. You know, it's like,
it was like some Italian pizza sub sandwich or whatever.
Yeah.
And the guy, I mean, talk about not even trying.
Oh my gosh.
It's muy delicioso.
It's like,
Like, wow, okay.
That's what that makes me think of. It's like we still do
Yes,
it,
that's a great
Yeah.
call. Actually, I would not have thought about that, but that's very similar. Yeah, this is perfect because I knew going into this that this would be a great episode for the three of us to do, because I feel, despite the fact that we clearly all very much enjoy the game, I think we come at it from different perspectives. I feel it's funny because Kyle, you're talking about you love the gameplay, but this was one of the first games that really hit you emotionally, and and it was interesting to hear your take, Taylor, kind of just your initial thoughts on just kind of the overall story and the twist and everything that kind of led you along, that you were really invested. This is probably one of two games that I had on my top 10 when we did our top 10 episode. This is probably one of two that I actually don't have an incredibly powerful, nostalgic, emotional connection to this game. I don't think that it really has, and this is not a criticism. This is just kind of my take on what's great about Bioshock. I don't think it really has any super strong characters. I feel like the characters are all very important, and they're all there for a very specific purpose, and they mean something, and they have something to say about the world. And you're always learning. You're always, the whole time you're playing this game, you are learning something, whether it's learning information or learning how to do something gameplay wise. The game just shows you stuff all the time. Like this game, it's on my top 10, but I don't get that rush of like, I hear the music and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm just like, this hurts with nostalgia. I never really felt super strongly about the actual narrative, because you're just picking up these tapes and listening, and you don't really ever you're not really upgrading your character very much. You have a little bit, right? You can make your plasmids better or whatnot, and your health, you get more health. But for the most part, you can remember when Dead Space came out for the first time, and it was the silent protagonist, and they were all like, oh, we want this to like see through your world. But it didn't really make any sense, because he was having human to human interactions with other people and not speaking. And you're like, why aren't you saying anything? It didn't work. So I thought when they did the remake of Dead Space and they went back and they added in the voice actor from the Dead Space 2 and 3, it made it a lot better, because there wasn't that weird disconnect where this guy is just mute and not saying anything. And it made him play a bigger role. Whereas in Bioshock, you aren't almost ever speaking to anyone. And it almost seems, I'm not sure if like the radio you get, it's like a one-way, you just like have like a speaker on you. You can't speak to them. Yeah. It doesn't seem like it. There's never a time, the way it's written, there's never a time where it would make sense for the character to actually say anything back.
There are a couple times I felt like there were maybe a couple responses where it maybe sounded like when you were speaking to Atlas that like
maybe you could have
something could have been said back, or then Tenenbaum, I think for sure.
But it makes sense that you didn't. Now, once you get to the end of the game and you realize you're like a complete mind slave.
Yeah.
And so they really do a good job of incorporating your mute character into the final narrative, and they make sense of an old school issue with game storytelling, which is a mute protagonist. And they actually use that to trick. You're kind of assuming it's like, yeah, whatever, it's just another game where there's a mute protagonist in 2007.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, maybe not. Actually, you're just completely devoid of free will. And just programmed to do exactly what you're being told. And so I just thought that was interesting, kind of an interesting play on it. But for me, this game is on my top 10 because I just find it to be, I find the gameplay to be like as close to objectively perfect as you can get. And it doesn't all live up. There's some dated stuff, and we'll get into some of that. But I think there is so much Bioshock in so many games since.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think that for me is why it just feels like I almost feel obligated to have it on my top 10, because it's like I can't think of very many other games other than maybe some really old, the Marios and the original Zelda and these kind of Doom, these very, very kind of foundational games that allowed others to continue. But this, you don't see that as often so late, much later into a medium's existence, to where it's like, I would say it's pretty much Bioshock and kind of the Souls-born genre from Dark Souls, or I guess from Demon Souls, where they almost made their own genres a little bit, or at least they popularized an incredibly niche genre that almost no one knew existed prior to them.
Right.
PUBG is
And
definitely a good one too.
PUBG is a good one, although the battle royale thing isn't. I don't think it's quite had the legs. Other than, of course, you're right. You're with fucking, what's it called?
Yeah, it allowed Fortnite to take over.
Fortnite. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great
Yeah.
point. That's a great point.
It seems like Bioshock's flavor too of like first person shooter kind of like action adventure game is very different from a lot of ones that you played like around the time it came out too.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like it has a different feel gameplay wise than, I don't know, something like a Call of Duty, right?
Yeah,
like,
everything was like a muddy war sim. In that era. Even non war sim type games like Gears of War or whatever, which obviously third person, but just it's that mid 2000s brown game.
yeah.
There's so
Yeah.
many mid 2000s brown games, and BioShock is so far away from that, and they embrace this incredibly distinct art style and era, and invokes these feelings that we know from movies and films in like the 50s and the 60s, and just this whole, just something you just hadn't, I don't know, I feel like you hadn't really seen that prior to this. And of course, yeah, as you pointed out, Ayn Rand, and we'll get a little bit of that as we tackle the story, but yeah, I just, for me, it has a gameplay loop that is so utterly intuitive. They give you a little bit of information, but you don't need that much. It's like once you realize, oh wow, I can use objects in the world, like pools of water or barrels of oil or whatever it might be, and you're like, you just start slicing all of these things together, and you're using this plasmid with this gun and that enemy, and you're gonna go piss off a Big Daddy because there's like 7 splicers over here, and you're gonna create this big melee between them all, and, and you have that one plasmid that turns one person against each other, and all of a sudden you've got a room shooting, and you are so in charge of every room you go into, and it makes you feel so smart, and it's so easy. It comes so naturally as you're playing. There's just very few games where I feel it's just so gratifying, second by second by second.
Yeah.
And it's a puzzle. And how much ammo do I have for this weapon and this weapon? Okay, well, if I don't have this, then I'm going to try this room. You know, I just, man, I almost forgot. I almost forget every time. Like every time I go back to that, I'm like, God, this game, the design of this game is just impeccable. So
yeah,
I just, how do you guys feel? Let's talk about gameplay for a little bit, and then we'll kind of dive into the story, and that'll probably be all we really. That's just about it, which will take us a while, I'm sure. But let's talk about that. I mean, Taylor, how I'm trying to think of how to put this. When you picked this game up, knowing that it came out in 2007, were you expecting it to be more of a narrative-based, like kind of like a Last of Us? That's why it's so popular, because everyone's so connected with the people in it? Or were you expecting like this very, very kind of rigid system that allows this gameplay to just do whatever you want over it? Like, what were you expecting from that gameplay, and how did it surprise you?
Yeah, I mean, I think going into like the expectations side of things, like I knew like a couple bits and pieces of BioShock. Like I didn't know like full beat by beat story, but I kind of knew like here and there what the game was about and how it told its story. And I knew that it was primarily through like the audio logs, kind of like we mentioned earlier. So I was kind of expecting an experience like how I had, where it's like I sort of have the skeleton of the story and the lore and the world, but I don't have like a fully fleshed out like body just yet. And that's kind of the part that I'm hoping like you guys will help me piece together, because like I know certain details, but I don't know how they play into the overall narrative going forward. So that's kind of what I expected, and I think the gameplay was really the part that I was the most interested in, because you see a lot of games that I think took inspiration from something like Bioshock, like in modernity, like like the most recent Prey game, or like even some of
Oh
the
yeah.
like Arcane Studios games, like Dishonored and stuff.
Dishonored, definitely.
Like I kind of viewed those games as being, well, I'm sure they have great stories, and hopefully we'll get to some of those for Experience Point
I'd
later
love to
on.
do those. Yeah.
But I kind of knew that they were gameplay driven experiences, and that one of the things I was expecting about the gameplay from Bioshock is that I knew that there was going to be a lot of environmental interaction. And one of the things I love about the game is kind of something that you brought up earlier, Ian, which is that like even just playing the game, like there's not really like a tutorial system. Like
Right.
it's not like some of the contemporary games that came out right around the same time, where you'd have like a menu that pops up that's like, hey, if you use your electricity bolt on a thing of water and there's a guy standing in it, he's going to get electrocuted. Like that's just something like you decide to try out by like electrifying that pool of water when there's a guy standing over it, and it just kind of happens. And that was, I think, one of the things I appreciated the most about the game, is being creative. Like at the end of the day, you really are just kind of shooting a bunch of bad guys like running around a level. But I like that the way that they did it was creative enough to where I felt like I was always kind of experimenting and seeing kind of what I could get away with. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yes.
Like kind of like you mentioned, like using some of the like abilities or like plasmids or whatever to be able to like, oh, like I'm having a lot of difficulty like in the early game because the big daddies are so tanky and they're hard to take out, and I don't have access to like all the different ammo types just yet. So like I'm almost like foregoing later Adam from the other big daddies by like controlling them with the one ability to like attack the other one, and getting the Atom from that one and using it to like upgrade my abilities and stuff. So I just love the options it gives you. I'm a really big fan of like whenever you're playing a game, I love having options as to how I can play the game. Like if it's just, and maybe that's really the thing that differentiates something like BioShock from like a Call of Duty, is that like in Call of Duty it never progresses past like, you know, aim down scope, click on head, like bad guy dead sort of thing.
Right.
Whereas in Bioshock, I feel like I was constantly like, oh, I'm out of ammo, so let me use the telekinesis, because then my environment is the weapon, and I can throw chairs and briefcases at these different like splicers, and I don't know, I just find that to be so much fun. And yeah, I think that was kind of the main thing I was expecting from the game. So
One thing
I had a
I've
blast with it.
one thing I've noticed I think is really important to remember too, that I think they made a conscious decision about, is not having an experience-based leveling program within the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that when you eliminate that, you force, you really kind of like, not force, but you really allow the player to play, by any means that they want to at any point. Because oftentimes when you're leveling spells or skills or even just your character, you're worried about, at least for me, with how my brain works, I feel like that limits my ability to really explore everything. Because at that point now I'm focused on just leveling up things and making sure that like, oh, if I force this character to kill another character, do I lose out on the experience now of that interaction? Do I have to kill this character myself? I don't know about you guys, but that's stuff that I think about that kind of like limits my ability to really kind of explore with certain spells within games and stuff like that. Bioshock is just like, the goal is to try to get out of this situation by any means necessary, and you can really explore that because you don't have to feel pigeonholed into one avenue, because you're not leveling things up in that facet. Of course you do buy upgrades and whatnot throughout that, but that's something that you can always change and decide to adjust later. But I
That's
really,
a great point.
yeah, I do think it's important that they create that environment where it's not punishing you for playing around with all the toys that you have.
Yeah, the upgrades almost act instead of leveling up your character in a specific way, which kind of gate you. You take an Elder Scrolls game or whatever, which I guess Skyrim. I think Skyrim is heavily influenced by Bioshock, heavily influenced.
Yeah.
Some people don't like how Skyrim is a little bit less role playing, crunchy role playing mechanics like in Oblivion, where you have a class, but in Oblivion you create your class and your major skills are the only reliable way to level up your character and improve. Whereas when you're improving your abilities in Bioshock, it's the opposite. You get more and more freedom as the game goes.
Yeah.
Not less.
Yeah.
Like the more you pile in your experience points into your 6 major skills in Oblivion, the further away all the other potential options are from you.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just a different way of going about it. But just all of all the level up is just like, oh man, I got more Atom. I can choose if I prefer to spend a bunch of my Atom and money on getting the Bees version 4 or whatever, the highest version, because it's just, I find it to be so stupidly effective and fun. But I don't have to do that. I can use the same amount of Atom and to buy 4 different 1-level plasmids and try them all out. So it's like, it's just allowing you to just sort of, like you said, Kyle, just really play and approach all of the game's challenges however you see fit. And if it doesn't work, go back, change it all up.
Yeah.
And it's just such a cool tapestry, and it makes it feel a little bit like a role-playing game, but only in the mechanical ways and with none of the restrictions that typically come with the RPG.
Yeah.
And I find it to be I could just play this game over and over, because I kind of, like you mentioned earlier, Kyle, it's like, I know the story, I know what's going to happen. I know more about the world. The world's beautiful, and I love running around. I like being in it. That's part of it. I think the art direction, we should jump into that next, because I think that's another huge pillar of this. But just, I wish there was more of it. I kind of want to go play the second one, because it wasn't made by Ken Levine's team, and it's kind of like a black sheep. And then they came back and they made Bioshock Infinite, and I didn't like Infinite when it first came out.
Really?
And I have not played it since, and I really want to go back and play it again, because I'm thinking I might like it. I remember being very pissed off that it was like called Bioshock and took place in a city in the sky. Like, that felt really dumb. Like, now we're gonna do a city in the sky, but it's all connected in different ways, and it's actually, I probably will like it, I think, now. So maybe in the future we can do the other Bioshock.
It is pretty highly rated too, but I agree with you on that. I felt like, I wouldn't say disappointed with the game, but it was just kind of like,
It definitely seems like one of those games too that, like, time has been very, very kind to.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of remember right around when it came out, and I was, you know me, I was kind of removed from the conversation because I didn't even play Bioshock, but I remember people being a little bit disappointed with it. But it seems like as people have gone back to it, they've gone back to it with like a clear perspective.
Yeah. I just don't think it met certain expectations, and that wasn't the fault of the game. The game wasn't bad because of it, but I think people were excited to have a Ken Levine written and directed game that brought us back to Rapture, and then to have it feel like it wasn't really Bioshock. It didn't really look or sound or feel like Bioshock, and that really upset people, and so they weren't as willing to buy in. I wasn't. I was kind of disappointed with it. I didn't understand the story very well the first time, but now that I think about it, man, that shit came out in like 2011 or 2012. I was in college, man. I was an idiot. So I want to play it again. I'd like to play Infinite again. Infinite is really like a direct sequel to Bioshock.
Yeah.
It kind of overrides, but it doesn't override it, but it doesn't really address Bioshock 2. Bioshock 2 is kind of like a weird, like, cousin, like, once removed. Bioshock 2, that is.
I've always wondered too. I mean, maybe this ill-timed for our conversation, but like, I mean, would you guys even recommend playing it? Like, if I really loved this game, like, is it even worth it?
I want to. Yes, I would say that there's a. I remember that there was a DLC for the second game that came out that was written by and directed by. Oh my God, his name is right on the tip of my tongue. It was the guy who wrote and directed Gone Home. Did you play Gone Home?
No,
Do you
I
remember
didn't.
Gone
I've
Home?
heard it's really good though.
Really, 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 really good. Have you ever played Gone Home, Kyle?
Mm-mm.
You can beat. That would be a fun, very easy experience point because you can beat that game in like an hour and a half.
Jordan Thomas,
Mm-mm.
Walt
Let's
Williams.
see. Now, 1 second.
I've heard very good things about Gone Home. I would definitely be interested. I'm like normally not a walking sim quote unquote guy, but I've heard
Gaynor.
of that.
Oh,
Okay, I haven't heard of him.
Bioshock 2, Steve Gaynor. He did the he did the DLC for Bioshock 2, and I can't remember what the name of the DLC. And apparently Minerva's Den. And apparently that was like everyone was like, now this is what we wanted from Bioshock 2.
Dang.
And it was kind of interesting. So I'd like to go back eventually and play Bioshock 2 again. I've only ever played it once. I don't even think I finished it.
Okay.
And then play that Minerva's Den DLC, which I'm sure is in the collection, because apparently it's really good. And then go to Infinite. That'd be kind of fun.
What I do recommend, I don't know if this type of stuff bothers you, but I know for Ian and I, it was like, in Bioshock 2, you play as one of the big daddies. And
that's what I've heard.
It's kind of irritating because if you play on the normal difficulty level, it's like people are like killing you in just like a few shots. And it's like, for me, I felt like I had to play the game on easy because I was like, this is not realistic.
It's like ruining the immersion.
If I'm a big daddy, I should be absolutely destroying everything.
Yeah. And they need to come up with ways to challenge me more because you'd like walk in and there'd be two splicers and they shoot you a couple times with rounds. You're like, and your health is like down to half health after they shoot you 2-3 times with their little pistols. I was like, I thought I was a fucking big daddy. What the fuck is this?
Yeah, after playing the first one where you bust like a big daddy busts through the wall and slams up against the
you've unloaded
glass.
like 10 clips into this fucking thing. It's like
it should have felt like Master Chief.
Yeah.
And the way that they challenge you was that they're, it takes place even further. The world of Rapture is in even worse shape. And you can come up with ways. It's like, oh man, now there's these like super splicers because they just kept going and they're kind of like, they're kind of like Atlases at the end of the first game or whatever.
Yeah. Super mutants.
You've got, and those could be your elites and your hunters and stuff like that. You have to raise the level of the enemies to make it a challenge. I'm not saying it should all be easy, but I should be ripping splicers in half and their little pistols should be not even barely. They should be grunts from Halo. So that was a big problem. It was just like, I was just pissing me off because it was like, you got me really pumped to play as a big daddy and kind of have this power fantasy. And then you just kind of forgot.
Yeah.
They give you the drill and you can use the drill to kill enemies, which is cool. But it's like,
that part was actually a lot of fun. That felt like similar to the Gears chainsaw,
Yeah, for sure. It did. So it was cool. Yes, I'd like to play the second one again. I don't even remember it, honestly, almost at all. So that'd be fun to do.
Yeah.
I kind of want to save the story conversation for the last part of this. Sure. There's so much there. You're talking about the actual narrative, the beat by beat part, and then you also have the basis of the philosophy and it's kind of like a literary criticism of Ayn Rand and of objectivism and individualism and all this stuff. So that's probably the heaviest topic we'll have. So the last thing I would love to just talk to you guys about is just the art direction, which I think is probably not the only other, but for me, the other most impactful part next to the gameplay. You could have had really interesting, cool gameplay like this and set it in, a lab, a scary lab or something, a government lab that was underground with sterile hallways. And I don't think even with all of the story beats and all of the amazing gameplay design, I don't think it would have been remembered, because there's something about this art style to me that really separates Bioshock from pretty much anything else out there. Um, how do you, Taylor, give me your thoughts on just on the way this game looks and feels and sounds, just like kind of the art and sound, and what makes this game, what Bioshock looks like.
Yeah, I would dare to say out of all of the different parts of BioShock, if we're taking into account like the story, the gameplay, like the music, all of these little disparate pieces that make up the whole of what BioShock is, I think the art design probably has to be like my favorite part of it. Um, I just think that Rapture itself is so well designed and is so cool to look at. Like I really lost track of how many times I was playing the game where I would just be in like a random like bar or something like in Rapture, and then I'm just kind of looking out the window to see the like skybox, you know what I mean? And just seeing like a little like shark go by,
Yeah.
or like in some part like there's like a window, like a starfish is on the window. Like I don't know, there's just something really cool about placing a massive like metropolis underwater. um I don't know, I've just always been fascinated with kind of underwater settings too, like especially when it's like a city like that. And it almost makes me wish that Bioshock maybe might have even been made like nowadays, because then I think you could have gotten an even more expanded look at like
Mm.
what Rapture truly looks like, you know. um One of the things that you mentioned earlier, Kyle, was one of my favorite parts of the game. I think that there's in video games, there's a lot of like really classic like step out moments. I think people call them a lot, like you know, in Fallout 3, like when you come out of the vault and you like see the wasteland and stuff. I had like a very similar experience on the bathysphere elevator, like coming down into Rapture.
Yeah.
Um, I've always, for some reason, I've always loved the concept of like an elevator with a window, and like you can't really move, but you're just sort of like watching the environment go by as you like slowly descend deeper and deeper into the ocean, you know? And I can't remember which Halo it was. There's a Halo game I remember that has a similar moment, right? Where you're like on an elevator that goes underwater.
Halo 2.
Yeah, I was gonna say because I remember it looked really, really cool, and I've always loved little moments like that in video games. But yeah, just taking the bathysphere down into that big tower that's out in the middle of the ocean, like I don't know, what a cool little set piece. But even outside of just like the way Rapture looks, because I mean that's you know people have talked about that for you know decades since the game comes out. But even just like the color palette, I think is really inspired and interesting looking. Like I love when you're injecting the plasmids and you get those neon reds and blues and like almost cyan like blue. Like I don't know, it just it's so cool looking and so pleasing to the eye. And I also love too that you know since Rapture is underwater, it's very gilded looking, but it's almost like a rusted gold as well. Like you know these handrails that are going down these like really extravagant you know stairways and stuff, and they're like old and rusted out because there's a window busted on the roof that's leaking water onto it. So like it just has this very weird lived in sort of feel to it. I also like too that there were multiple environments that had leaks that were sprung in it, and I could almost smell like
The
the
salt water.
mildew. Yeah, or like you like the salt water, or like that it had leaked onto the carpet, and it's creating this almost like musty like scent, but also mixed with like the cigarette smoke that might have like permeated that building. I don't know. It was very palpable for me, and I really loved that part of the game. And like I said, I think like arguably, I think Rapture and its art design and really just the way Bioshock looks might be my favorite part of it.
Yeah.
Um, no joke. I
Yeah.
think it's masterfully done.
How about you, Kyle?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's something to be said about when you, at least for me now, I will see games that come out like what's that name? The one that In Exile's making, like it's
Clockwork
clockworks.
Revolution.
You know, I see games like that, and the only way that I can describe it is like it looks like Bioshock. You know,
Yeah.
I think they really nailed the feel and the look and the art style of it. The only thing that I would kind of like say that it kind of like pulls off of is like it makes me think of like kind of like that old school like Batman like Arkham City vibes, you know?
Yeah.
That's
Hmm.
kind of what the artwork kind of looks like. Everything's kind of darkish. Um, you know, there's very limited light other than just the bright like neon lights of like, you know, the slot machines or, you know, the vending machines I should say. And you know, the big bright signs that are above doors and stuff. Outside of that, it's generally pretty
The green
dark.
glowing eyes on the big daddies or
Yeah.
the helmets. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the way that they really were particular about only creating certain lights in the environments is also just artistically genius about it. Um, because, like you were saying, Taylor, it really makes it pop when all of a sudden you're seeing these bright blues and reds and yellows and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, I think that there is just something so incredibly unique about Bioshock. Obviously, they're utilizing a specific time period in the 40s specifically, but with that being said, it's still kind of its own thing. And the only way I can personally describe it when I see things like that in games or in movies is like, oh, that's very Bioshock like. That's what that looks like to me. So in
Mhm.
some ways, it's like it definitely pulls from a time period, but it's still really unique in its own right. And there's, you know, it like it just revolutionized everything. I feel like from that point on, games were trying to really capture what Bioshock had done.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's what any unique or distinct art style can do for a game or a film or whatever. I mean, it sticks in people's minds. It's sort of like when you travel and you go somewhere, you remember. I don't know about you guys. This is true for me. I remember all of my really big traveling moments like they were yesterday
Mhm.
because they were so outside of my daily routine, and everything I was seeing was so distinct and different. And I think it kind of has the same. You just say the word Bioshock, and it's like you get so much just blasted into your mind's eye so quickly
Yeah.
of this. I don't know how many. This is like really specific, but I don't know how many buildings you guys have been in. Uh, they're generally in bigger cities that were built between like 1920 and 1950,
Mm.
but that style, it's I think it's called Art Deco,
Art Deco. Yeah.
and it's like when back when those buildings were being constructed, every hallway in the Empire State Building that I've seen. Obviously, I haven't seen every hallway in the Empire State Building, but I've gone through the bottom up to you have to take multiple elevators and walk through a few floors. Every corner of that building has filigreed little detailed, you know, little bits along the ceiling. I can't think of the word you use, like crown molding or whatever, right? It's like
Yeah.
it's all the
Ornate.
yeah, very ornate and detailed. Like someone was like fucking, carving this shit or drawing or whatever. All of these,
Yeah.
everything was so detailed, and it has all of these really sharp, angular, kind of pentagons and triangles, and the stairs. All the stairs are built wide at the bottom and narrow to the top, and they all have gold and black and green and silver, and they're just like they just didn't give a fuck, and they were like, we're just going to make this the most beautiful thing ever. Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
it's like, and now like an office building now, they're like, yeah, just glass and styrofoam and metal, and your ceiling, all the ceilings are just made out of like styrofoam or whatever, and it's just like, and fluorescent lighting.
Particle board.
It's
Yeah.
just like, just get this shit up as quick as you can. All right, we got to get this done. And people were built when people built the original New York City, like those big buildings were built with just, we were going to make a statement.
Mm.
And the Romans did that. We're gonna make the biggest fucking. The Chinese did that. We're gonna make this. We're gonna build one of the tallest buildings in the world, of the ancient world. All these the pyramids. There's a moment when all these powerful societies are right before their peak, where they're like, we care about this. We care about everything. And I feel like that's how the developers made Rapture in the game, but they wanted you to feel as that's how Andrew Ryan and all of these Fontaine and all these rich businessmen that got together to build this place. The whole place is a statement. I mean, the whole point of his existence is about getting away from the church and the state and the communists and making our own way. And this whole place is a statement. It's impossible, and we did it. So fuck you.
Yeah.
And like that's that, and the fact that they went so, I think that's probably why they chose to set it in the late 50s and why they chose Art Deco as kind of their founding principle for how things were going to look, because it was so much about making a statement. Both so like even the artwork is part of the story in such a, it's not just like, oh yeah, this great artist came up with all these cool looking swords for this game. But like this artist was like, no, we're going to make all of these connected, and there's going to be an in-story reason. Have you guys ever watched the appendices for Lord of the Rings movies?
Yes.
I have not.
Amazing watch. Highly recommend. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because there's a sequence in each one. They kind of, as you watch them, they go from like storyboard to music to filming to acting to casting to acting to all this, and they always get to the armor and stuff and the people who made all the weapons. And when they made all the weapons and the armor, they were coming up with all of these things like, well, the reason that the armor looks this way is because way back in the time of Numenor, these people, they were thinking about the world the whole time, and it was just painstaking detail. All these little things that Tolkien had talked about, they got into the knives and the armor, and it was all just like just obsessive world building. And I feel like that's what Bioshock has. Is there was never a moment, there's never a corner in this game where you feel like someone had to plaster over and copy and paste something. Every hallway, someone was like, no, this part is in the entertainment district, so we need to have it look this way. And they went through and they just did such a great job. It's such a clear dedication to the vision, to the story, to make this stand out and to make this feel great. And you could tell they got all the time they needed to make the game. They were not rushed, and that's why they made a masterpiece, because it's just like, it's just unrelenting in its focus. And I just admire the whole time I'm playing it. I just like every time you go to a new place, it's like, this is just, at some point I'm expecting them to take a day off here, and they just don't.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think I would agree with you, Taylor. I know I came in and said the gameplay was like kind of the main thing, and it is to an extent, but man, yeah, the art really does make it stand out. Beyond from like almost anything else. And most of my favorite game, I feel like most of our favorite games do a good job of that. Like they clearly,
oh, for sure.
It's like a good football team or it's like this whole complementary. Everything feeds into everything else. The art feeds into the story feeds into the gameplay feeds the art, and so on, right? Doesn't feel disparate or forced or unrelated. You can tell it was like it's probably a relatively small team just cranking this shit out.
Oh, for sure.
Oh,
a
yeah.
long time. And so that's why I've always just really, really admired it. Is there anything else at all? Is there any specific things you guys wanted to talk about? Did you have any favorite levels as far as artwork? I love obviously like the intro level is amazing. I really like the entertainment district when you're running around for Sandra Cohen.
Yeah.
With the theater, and
that was one of my favorites too.
I liked
what was the foresty? There was a foresty segment where like
Arcadia.
I remember Arcadia. Yeah, that was one I liked a lot too. Mostly because I just loved how it was like this weird, like one of the audio logs I remember that was really, really memorable was talking about how like one of the residents there was like taking taking this girl on a date there because it was like the big date spot, in Rapture. So he's like, oh, she's really gonna love this, kind of thing.
The trees.
That, yeah, that was one of my favorite little levels too. It was really cool.
It was so unnatural to live there.
Right.
There is a recording also in there. It's funny that you mentioned that because I remember finding a recording that was from a girl that had been born in Rapture, and she was afraid of the trees because they were unlike anything. She felt like they were alien monsters or something.
Wow,
that's a cool
because
perspective.
If you grow up in Rapture, there's no trees. Like,
yeah,
right, yeah,
they must look like they belong on the outside.
Yeah,
right.
And they're inside, which is cool that someone thought of that. And like this girl wouldn't.
That is cool. Damn, I wish I would have heard that one.
There's so many in there. It's crazy. I'm sure I missed some.
I was actually thinking it might be cool. It's got to be somewhere on YouTube, but like like for people like me who picked up as many audio logs as you could, but obviously didn't get all of them.
Sure.
It would be really cool to listen to like a compilation of like all the audio logs from one specific area and really like piece together the story almost like podcast style. I think that would be interesting.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
I bet there's a YouTube video.
Oh, for sure.
That's
Somebody's
like a
done it.
compilation of all of the audio logs. And they do really add a lot of flavor. It's kind of silly to think about the fact that all of these people were like, the world's falling apart, and they're like, hold on, let me record my thoughts.
Right.
But I don't think that's the point. I don't think it mattered. I think it's just very much like, no, we just wanted to get the story across, and this is how we chose to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love all the audio logs. Any other kind of things you wanted to touch on here before we jump on the final part of this into the storyline and kind of the narrative and the philosophy and all that good stuff?
Oh, I think I'm good.
Yeah, I'm ready for that.
Cool. Quickly, before we do so, I am going to read our one and only write-in. I should make 100% sure that we didn't get any other write-ins here in... Okay, no, we did not. So we got one write-in from the Lord of the Cream. All right. So he wrote in, he said, overall, I really enjoyed this game. I had some speed bumps along the way. It's just fun. Like, there's actually something he brings up here that we didn't talk about, so we'll jump into that actually. I had some speed bumps along the way with the gameplay that did bother me or I felt didn't age too well. For instance, early on in the game, it felt like hacking items was presented as something crucial to the gameplay loop. For example, if you hack this medical station, then enemies can't use it. A cool idea, but these things are everywhere, along with turrets and cameras and machines to buy stuff. I was hacking everything, which after a while got incredibly tedious and annoying. Hacking a med station only benefited me in a combat encounter one time. Apologies. Hacking and flying turrets is cool. Since they follow you around, those can be helpful, but overall I felt like I was oversold on the idea that I should be hacking everything, and it led me to getting frustrated with the game. So I did want to talk before I continue. I want to discuss the hacking thing. I'm weird. This was a consistent complaint about the game in reviews at the time, and with a lot of people I know. I'm like a weirdo and really like the hacking game.
Yeah,
I think
Dude,
it's
I
fun.
hate it.
Yeah, I totally get it.
Yeah. It was. I was talking to Cream Lord about this too, because we were kind of messaging back and forth as we were playing the game. I hacked like maybe one or two things throughout the whole game. And it was right at the beginning of the game when the liquid is going through at like a snail's pace through it. As soon as it started getting a second faster, I was like, nah, I'm not doing this. And I just ended up building like auto hacks through like the entire game. So that way I could just hack stuff here and there.
Nice.
Because like the turret sections would just get super fucking annoying. Just having like those things like constantly just weep coming through the room and like attack you. So anytime I did that, I had like at least 3 auto hacks on deck every single time so I could shut off those turrets. But yeah, that's definitely one of my nitpicks for sure. I was not a fan of it.
I could see that for sure.
How
I
do you feel
enjoyed
about the hacking, Kyle.
I enjoyed it. They're definitely like he Cream Lord mentioned it. Hacking the medical bay thing is completely useless. It
makes it a little cheaper.
Yeah, but I don't ever use it. It's like if you're not fully stocked on health packs, you're probably not playing the game correctly. Um, I think the only time it's super useful, you don't even necessarily have to worry about security cameras. I just hack it just because I do enjoy the process. But yeah, you can get away with not even having to hack those, which means that you encounter a lot less, of those flying turrets essentially. I think the only time it's like super necessary, in my opinion, is just hacking the vending machines so that you can get the discount.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the safes.
Yeah, and the safes, of
Lots
course.
of good stuff in there. So I totally get why people don't like it. It doesn't really fit in the game necessarily either. It's like it kind of messes with the pacing of the combat. So I definitely understand that. But I feel like they accounted for it very well because there are a ton of upgrades that you can put on your character that slow down the pace of the hacking, that reduce the amount of traps within the hacking tiles, and make it about as easy as it is in the beginning of the game. And if you decide to invest in those and become very good at hacking, it's just another weapon. Crazy, especially I think I played on hard. This is the first time I ever played this game on hard. I usually play it on normal, and I played this. This is the first time I ever played it on hard, and hacking became so vital for me because I was anytime there were the flying turrets or the mounted turrets, shock, hack, shock, hack, shock, hack, shock. Now I have an army of fucking robots, and they're all going to do my bidding now. And and then all of the corridors with the cameras, you hack all those guys. You find a group of enemies, or maybe you find a big daddy, bop them with a pistol, run away, lead them right into that camera. It sicks all of the turrets onto the enemies. They just clear all the enemies out for you because you might not have very much ammo or health on hard. And it was like, it's just another like fun way for me to just mess with the world and the environment and turn the entire environment against the enemies at every turn. So I have a blast with it, but I hate the ones that are like super, super hard. It gives you the difficulty level. And even with all of my abilities, they're like the safes were almost always like that. So I had auto hacks on hand for every safe. I was like, fuck that. I'm not going to get shocked over and over again on these safes. So I would use the auto hacks for the safes because I wanted all the stuff in there. But everything else, I'm hacking like I probably spent like, I don't know, 15% of the time playing Bioshock hacking.
Interesting.
My one thing I do push back on a little bit when we think about just the immersion of the world.
Oh yeah.
Like why is the turret only attacking me? And why are the security cameras only looking for me unless I hack them? That part is like just story-wise doesn't make sense. It's like I would imagine that this security camera is probably trying to keep anybody from entering the area.
Yeah, unless those splicers had hacked them before you were there.
Could be.
Yeah, or Andrew Ryan specifically had them looking for you.
Yeah, because he does have the splicers on. They're usually working for him a lot of the time.
That's a fair point.
But I still think you're making a fair point. The idea of the fact that I'm in the middle of a firefight and then I stop. I'm like, hold up, I gotta hack this guy so he'll shoot you. I'm just working on
1 second, guys.
Sorry, there's a lot of tiles in here.
Boy, you really messed up here in about 30 seconds.
I'm about to turn this sucker on you. Okay? Yeah, I mean, it doesn't make any sense at all. But I have fun with the mechanic. I mean, it's very simple. And you're just like with all of the tiles, and you're like, okay, I can go this way. Oh shit, where's the? I need one that goes down and right, down and right, down and right. Where is it? It's coming. I don't know. I kind of get a rush out of it for some reason. But I totally understand why people don't like it. It is an objectively questionable.
Yeah, it's just
in design.
It's just one of those mini games. Like it's like a game within a game that I just did not find fun. It's not like on the same level as like the lockpick mini game from like Skyrim,
right,
or even like the computer hacking terminals like from Fallout or something. Like I just didn't have fun doing it, and it was just, by the time I got to the game where I could get an upgrade from the gene, whatever they call it, like the gene bank. Yeah. Like by the time I got to like the hacking three or whatever that like made it easier. I was like, yeah, can I do that? Or should I just get the cool incinerate three instead? And I was
Right,
like, I
right.
think I'm just going to go for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty
No,
easy
I
decision.
totally agree with that. So I just wanted to talk about that real quick because he brought it up. All right, continuing with the write-in, he said I was treating it a bit too much like a survival horror as well, which is why I was hacking all the machines to reduce the cost of everything and being really scarce with my ammunition. Then I hit the cap for my money around a third through the game, and that made me realize I should be spending it more. A long winded way of me saying I was kind of playing the game wrong for a while, but I think the game could have done a better job in this aspect. Once I just started blasting away and buying tons of supplies and only really hacking safes on the occasional turret, the game became a lot more fun. The core gameplay with the guns and plasmids is awesome though, and I have no complaints there. So that's his gameplay part. And then he does jump into the story, which is why I wanted to read this before we got into it.
Nice.
Trying not to make this write in too long, but the story and themes are very interesting, and I think I would take a lot more away from it on a replay. I've been learning about some of the inspiration for the game and how objectivism is at the heart of it, a philosophical system created by a Russian author named Ayn Rand. She first wrote about objectivism in her fiction novels, first appearing in 1943 and later in a book called Atlas Shrugged, which was confirmed to be the inspiration for the name of the character Atlas. It seems Andrew Ryan's backstory was slightly based on Ayn Rand as well, as they were both Russian born and moved to America with the same ideals. It's interesting stuff, and I can't tell you the last time a game has got me digging into history and philosophy, so that's pretty cool. Sorry for the long write-in. Time to return to the cream factory. He's buying in, boys. He's buying in.
Turning
nice.
Good stuff.
Very, very well said. I want to jump into this now. So there's a few things, of course, I want to touch on, but we'll kind of stick with the same rhythm we have going. So Taylor, let's start with you.
Mm-hmm.
All spoilers. You can start anywhere you want. But what did you think of? I guess what did you expect going in a little bit as you started the game, got through a chapter or two, and then by the end of it, how do you feel about this narrative, the story, both from a step by step, like what's happening in the game and the characters and the lore, but also this big philosophical. It's kind of a piece of literary criticism too. So. Mm-hmm. Just kind of give me your high level thoughts on the story, the characters, the events, the spoilers, and the philosophy of the game.
Yeah, I think overall I really love the story of Bioshock. I think it's a very well written game, if albeit told inelegantly sometimes, and I think that's just part and parcel to the having the narrative told primarily through the audio logs. Because like I mentioned a little bit earlier, like it's really, really difficult unless you're playing it like a collectathon to collect all of these different audio logs. And I feel like I got some of them out of order sometimes. So it was really difficult sometimes to piece together the overall story. And kind of like I mentioned a little bit earlier in my analogy, I feel like I have the skeleton of a story and lore, but I don't have the fully fleshed out A to Z, what is this story really about? I admittedly am not very learned when it comes to Ayn Rand, and I've kind of heard of the philosophy of objectivism and sort of how it plays into the story of this game, but I'm really not super well read on it. I think I agree with Creamlord. It definitely seems like a narrative that I would get a more holistic perspective of once I play through the game a second time. Because I'll kind of can take what I've already learned from the story, especially from the twist at the end, right? Like it definitely colors like the rest of the game in a very interesting light now that you know who the main character is, like what his connection is to Rapture, like him being this kind of like genetically engineered hitman essentially for like Fontaine. And not only that, but like playing through the game, knowing that Atlas is Fontaine and hearing his dialogue, I think would be interesting to hear the second time around. So I feel like I only got maybe 65% of what the game was trying to tell me. And then the other 40 some odd percent is still left to be discovered by maybe replaying through the game a second time or like doing a little bit of extra reading. So I liked what was there. I liked the bits of story that I got and the audio logs that I got and the environmental storytelling piece of it, but I just don't know the whole thing from A to Z. And I think that it's still a testament to how good Bioshock is that even if I don't like, even if the puzzle is missing a few pieces, I can still think that it's a very engaging and interesting story with some good things to say without knowing the full thing. So yeah, I liked the story. I loved that twist. I did not see that twist coming.
Yeah.
Because kind of like you said at the start, Ian, I was kind of under the assumption that I was just, John Doe with not a whole lot of reason to be there. And in the audio logs with Suchong and kind of knowing the part that he has to play into the story, I don't know, he almost seems like kind of a morbid reference, I guess, but he almost seems like Andrew Ryan's like Mengele type character, like just this
I think that's
mad scientist, evil doctor who's like experimenting on people. And so to find out that you are kind of one of his experiments and maybe his most successful experiment is kind of crazy. So yeah, definitely something I think I would love to re-explore on another playthrough. But yeah,
awesome, man. Yeah, very well said. Kyle, how do you tell us about your thoughts on the storyline?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like I said, the twist I remember very vividly, creating a very strong emotional response for me. One thing that I really appreciated now is like knowing what to expect. I'm kind of paying attention to the smaller things that are being thrown out there. And I don't know if you noticed this, Taylor, but did you recognize what was on the letter from his wife when he was on the plane in the very beginning?
No, I don't remember almost anything about the beginning of the game.
Those are definite. Yeah, I mean, that because you've played the game enough times.
Yeah. So the letter, I don't know exactly what it says, but the letter starts with, and it's from his wife. It says, "Would you kindly," and then it has like a specific request on the outside of the letter.
Which is to hijack the plane and make sure it crashes at the tower.
Yeah. So,
which is cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Noticing things like that of like, it's just kind of cool. Like the second time around to kind of see like the smaller details on the outside where you're like, oh, I guess, the first time around you're not really paying attention to it, but they definitely throw in a lot of foreshadowing that's pretty neat there. The interaction with Andrew Ryan is something that just
so good.
It's always
chooses.
Yes, it always
a slave obeys.
That's the scene that really that's the scene that really gets me every time, and even the second time it still brings out an emotion out of me because I feel like for that time period of when the game came out, it was kind of like for me the first game that really kind of took the controller out of your hands and forced you to do something where you weren't liking it. It's like, what's going on? I'm not in control, and you're realizing kind of what's going on, but you're like not wanting it to happen. It's just a brutal truth that you're coming to realize, and that was like my first experience of that, and then from that point on, it was something that I kind of started to look towards, is having, a story that's a little bit more gritty and not about, the good guy prevailing all the time. Which is why I'm so into stories like The Last of Us and, things like that, where it's like, I love when a writer is willing to create a story that's going to bring out, feelings that don't make you feel good, but they teach you a lesson. To be really challenged. Yeah. I'm definitely not the type of person who gets upset over when things go wrong, like a lot of people did with The Last of Us. I really look for those kind of stories. I think it's really bold and and something that really kind of sticks with you a little bit more. So yeah, I think that the final scene with Andrew Ryan is so iconic to me.
Yeah, it is truly iconic.
That entire interaction, it really kind of starts to make sense of everything. At that point, you're starting to realize who you are as a character in this world, and starting to realize,
sitting there killing your own dad.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, that was, it was kind of cool to see that still had that similar feeling for me, experiencing that again. But yeah, I think it's just more of just the cool, like, little pieces of like knowing who these people are from the very beginning, and then kind of just paying more attention to what they were saying early on, and noticing those little treats that they kind of lay out there for you throughout the story.
And there's so many twists and turns, and like in an hour of gameplay, where it's just like one after the other. Like, oh my god, like what?
Yeah. So many cool moments too, like that are the confrontation with Andrew Ryan is like, I think, the first and only encounter where like you're on the same side of the wall as
any
person
character
you're confronting. Yeah. And so many like cool little moments too. Like I also thought about I forget what the doctor's name is. There was the doctor that Andrew Ryan had the fling with, who creates the chemical that is supposed to be like wafted through the airways or whatever.
Fixes Arcadia.
Yeah, and as she's like he's poisoning her, like in that room, like he has that speech about being like, all of the contents made within Rapture are subject to my copyright. Like, this is my thing, and you are voiding this copyright. Like, as he's poisoning her in this like room, like it basically becomes her lethal injection. Crazy. Yeah, that's a really cool moment. I also remember the one too of the I think it was like one of the guys at the beginning of the game or whatever, when he's like experimenting on like the guys, and he's like, this one was too fat. Yeah. And he like blows that one up.
Obsessed with like the natural figure and stuff.
This one's too symmetrical.
That part, that's so scary. That's still when the game is kind of scary.
Yeah.
He's like he's like what's the name of the serial killer in Silence of the Lambs?
Buffalo Bill.
Buffalo Bill.
Oh yeah.
He's like obsessed with the skin of
yeah.
women, and like it's like all it's all.
You remember the tape that you pick up after fighting him?
Yes.
Where he's like,
I don't remember.
He's got his like nurse or aide that's with him, and he's doing some sort of like plastic surgery in a sense, or facial reconstruction of some kind, and he finishes that one project that he's supposed to do, and then he like moves on to like wanting to fix the rest of her face, and you can hear like the aide like, what are you doing, and like she's starting to freak out and scream, and he's just like continuing to go on and like cut into their face, and it's like it's so
move.
Yeah, it's so creepy.
Yeah,
they do such a good job of it.
Yeah, and yeah, he just goes off on this. He just gets obsessed. All of these people are obsessed with their own thing. They have these visions, and they came to Rapture because no one else would let them do it.
Yep.
Right.
And that's kind of when you start to get tied into the whole Ayn Rand thing, which we'll tackle a little bit. But Taylor, you had said that you maybe it didn't catch everything, or you weren't sure about everything. Is there anything do you have any questions about like what happened, or any of the lore stuff or parts of the story that you didn't get or feel like you missed, or something that Kyle and I might know because we played it so many times?
Yeah. So one of the things I was kind of struggling to kind of like put the pieces together about was why Rapture was kind of created in the first place. Like, I know that it was kind of like the speech at the beginning of the game kind of implies that like Andrew Ryan is not he's not all the way for like capitalism, but he's also not like into communism either. And so the thought that I got that like Rapture was kind of created in his mind, how he thought would be like the perfect economical, like libertarian free market system. Mm-hmm. But I don't know exactly like the reasons why it was created. And I'm hoping maybe you guys can like give me some more background on that.
Kyle, do you want to jump into any of that?
I think you'd be better at answering it, but just my general theory is, um, it sounds to me like a lot of wealthy people getting together, wanting to, you know, create this like dream of a society, but ultimately that just kind of comes down to, power and control and wanting to be away from the influences of, at the time, a heavy influence of capitalism versus communism, and utilizing that avenue to kind of convince people to come this direction.
Mm.
But I mean, ultimately, it's definitely still, at the end of the day, you're selling this product of like, come to this utopia so that you can live under my rule instead of their rule.
Yeah, that's what it ends up being, right? And I think that's kind of like ends up being the whole point of the story. So yeah, so there's a lot of we're running into the Ayn Rand stuff, so we'll address that a little bit, because so Ayn Rand was born in, I believe, in Russia, and so if anyone was listening who's like a big Ayn Rand person, I'm not gonna do that justice. I don't know. I have not read a lot of her works. I started reading Atlas Shrugged after I played Bioshock, and I read like a good chunk of it, but it's pretty dense, and I don't think I ended up reading the whole thing. But what I learned from reading that and just reading about her because of this game is it's really important to understand like where she came from. So she escaped communist Russia, and so everything there is, it's all, everything belongs to everyone, and your existence is to serve everyone's existence, and you don't need to be special. Everyone, you're equal. Everyone is equal in every way. And of course, at the end of the day, what happened in communism is the same thing that happens in every system, which is eventually a very small group of people end up with everything over everyone else, and everyone else suffers. And that's what ended up happening. But that was her lens into life, was like this obsession with equality, not like when we talk about like racial equality, but like true, everyone is the same, and you no individual, we all wear the same things, you use all the same products, there's no competition, there's no, you're not going to make something that runs someone else out of business. Everything's going to be made by the state. It's all going to be uniform. It's going to be a utopia. No one's trying to fuck each other over, for $1. Like, that's kind of the idea of this utopia of like the working man rules, the working class rules. There are no millionaires or billionaires, depending on the time you're alive, running the whole show. And of course that's not what happened. The whole thing just fell apart. You go to capitalism, and it's the same thing, where the philosophy she wrote is the objectivism. It's like a system that addresses everything in life. So it's like how you look at reality and how you look at knowledge and politics and ethics. So as far as your question, Taylor, about why it was built, the system in her mind that was going to be perfect or close to it was capitalism with zero regulation. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
But the idea behind it was that it was a free market system that was all about the individual's right to do their own thing, and that there is no selfishness, that each person is a heroic individual that is responsible for their own happiness, and you should not be responsible for anyone else's. And it's basically just a complete 180 from communism, and it makes sense because she grew up in horrible communism. So I mean, I kind of get where she came from, but and so they built this city with the idea, and yeah, you got those slides in the beginning where it's like the sweat off your brow, your own work, is always got to go to somebody else. You either got to pay taxes to the American government, or it belongs to the state in Soviet Russia, or it belongs to the church in Rome. Like, everyone wants what everyone else has. And the idea of this city was that everyone would get to pursue whatever they wanted with no oversight and no masters. True freedom, like the truest expression of freedom. And they got exactly what they wanted.
Yeah.
the problem was just like, it doesn't matter what your system is. Eventually, someone's going to try to use it for themselves. And Andrew Ryan, who was probably the primary person, clearly, that designed and built the city and funded it and all that, and it was his philosophy. He's sort of Ayn Rand in a way, it feels like.
Yeah.
He's like the personification of her a little bit. And it's like good intentions gone bad. Just think about, I mean, you just start to getting that much power, you lose your mind. The idea, like when you first walk into the tower and there's that huge banner that says "No gods, no kings, only man," and what's above the banner? A giant golden idol of Andrew Ryan.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Like it's. I think it's just this massive hypocrisy and just the irony in all of this. In that, like at the end of the day, all of these systems sort of end up at the same place.
Yeah.
Which is a small group of people being really awful and destroying everyone else's lives so that they can do what they want.
Yep.
Right.
And I think the criticism, quote unquote, is that had she gotten her way, Ayn Rand, if she could have done everything exactly the way she thought fit, this would have been the result to an extent.
Okay.
And just like communist Russia was a fucking disaster, it's not like a pro-communist message. It's not really pro anything. It's just like, let's stop.
Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah,
kind
be
of
careful
thing.
what you wish for, and let's stop trying to assume that there is a perfect way, and realize that you can't try to make all of these decisions about how to live life and how society should be because something might have a problem with it. I mean, that's just, everything comes at a cost, and everything, and you can't just do whatever the fuck you want. That's not how that works. You know, like in Ayn Rand's philosophy, like altruism is not a good thing, which I would personally disagree with. But so it's just a really interesting kind of thought process on like thought experiment of like,
I think
if a libertarian people got
it definitely warrants a lot more like looking into. Like I would love, now that I've played the game, I can do the video essay deep dive.
Yes, do
and,
it.
like,
there's so many good ones with Bioshock.
See what some super learned like philosophy majors have to say about it.
Yeah, it's super interesting stuff, and
there's good points made in here, right? It's just like, you know, when you start to take these radical ideas and try to blend it into regulation and law, it's like, that's, I think, when it ultimately really becomes a problem. Because philosophically, it's like, I don't have any issue with somebody saying, like, one of the key essences here is that you are your own person and responsible for your own life. I mean, that makes sense, right? So I think philosophically, it's like, there's certain points within her ideas where it's like, yeah, that does make sense. She's also not the first person to really say that. But yeah, I totally agree with you. Where I think it's just, you could see obviously the issues with capitalism and the issues with communism, and I think it's kind of cool that this is like kind of in a way, like a simulation of what her idea would have created. You know, not really a simulation. It's obviously pointed. They're trying to make a point, but
yeah, I mean, it's a
I don't think that it's an accident that they named Andrew Ryan because it's pretty damn close.
It's pretty close to her name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really like that about that. And hey, one thing you can say about Andrew Ryan, even though he's a massive hypocrite and he doesn't really realize it, he believed what he believed in right up to the point where that golf
club was sticking out of his skull.
Killed him. He
You
was
gotta give him
still
credit.
like, I'm right. Like, well, no, you're not. Look at this place, dude.
You're a crazy person, yeah.
Look at this place. You let all of these people just go fucking hog wild, and your society broke down in like a few years. It's like it took like 10 years. Because unfortunately, the reality is you do need a law to say, no, you can't experiment on children.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have a law that says that and you allow it, it will happen.
Yep.
Some fucker's going to do it. And that's where, and then you get back, the argument is like, okay, well, how much? How much does the law get to say? And then when do the people get in charge of the laws and start making those, right? It just goes on and on and on. That's what's cool.
Yeah, who watches the Watchmen?
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, and the idea, to get into a bit of the lore, this will be the last part, and we'll sign off here shortly. I like the idea. I kind of like some of the fantasy elements that get and how they figure out a way to sort of shoehorn that in for the gameplay in the plasmids.
Yeah.
But they make it the fact that they discovered these slugs at the bottom of the ocean who secretes this stuff that rewrites DNA, and they realized that when they applied this stuff to an adult, it started to kill them or drive them completely insane. But if you harvested it through a child, it interacted with a child's physiology and body differently, specifically female children. You could then safely take their blood and then, they probably put it in like a centrifuge or something and get the secretion from the, that way, and it wouldn't kill you. And then you could begin to rewrite your own DNA and start creating plasmids and so on and so forth. And so then you get this whole, did you guys all save the little sisters?
Yeah, I saved every single one that I came
think
across.
It's a stupid choice. It's like you don't even get that much more for killing them, and
the story is way worse.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. What does the ending look like? I know that there's two endings, right? If you harvest the little sisters or you save them.
Mm-hmm. I don't even remember. I've looked it up. I've watched it on YouTube, but I can't bring myself to ever harvest them. And it's interesting, even after the slugs are removed and you save them, they're still kind of messed up. And they're even when they're the cute little regular girls at the end, they're like, "We'll help you." And they're sticking the needles into the guy's eyes.
Yeah. That part where you have to escort one of them and she's just going stopping every few moments to poke that guy. Yeah.
They're still all messed up, but it's cool. I really like the ending. I kind of feel like you should have just the option didn't even really need to be in there.
Yeah, I feel like it. I feel like that's one of the things that it sounds like Ken Levine is trying to expand in Judas that I think is interesting. That's kind of like I agree with you. I think it probably shouldn't have been in there, but I think he wants to take that idea of having a choice and consequence, and that seems to be the big thing for Judas. So that's cool. At least exciting. Yeah, that's kind of the seed of that idea,
It looks cool.
If it's sewn into the game, Judas looks fucking sick, dude. I can't wait.
Yeah. If
it's sewn into the entire game and there's lots of choices and lots of reactivity, that's really cool. But the fact that that's the only choice you ever get, it's what? It just doesn't really. Yeah. I think it would have been stronger if you just saved them all. It's interesting. I don't know. I love the way that it plays with real history. And Tannenbaum's a former Nazi scientist, and she's kind of came here and used this opportunity to try and redeem herself and save those girls, even though she was the one who helped realize that the girls would be the perfect host for the slug. But she's trying to undo the damage that she's done, and that she knows who you are the whole time.
Right.
And it's just crazy. All the connections. You're just this tool of these two warlords down here under the sea. And it's the idea that you're Andrew Ryan's son is insane. And when you find I think it's, you find your dead mom because he killed her. She was so scared to find out that when she was pregnant and she couldn't tell him. And I don't know. There's so much great little details in this.
Yeah.
In this story, and the more you find out, just the crazier it gets.
Yeah.
Any kind of final thoughts on the storyline? Is there anything we didn't really even that we didn't touch on for people listening? Something big that we'll realize later, oh shit, we didn't even talk about that, or did we cover everything?
No, I can't think of anything.
Cool.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's a great game.
Wonderful game. Yeah, I'm excited to play others. I don't know if we want to jump into those more soon while it's fresh and keep going, or if we want to hold off and come back. Maybe after. Are you both going to play Ghost of Yotai?
Yes, but maybe not immediately.
I still got to finish KCD 2.
I was actually thinking, sorry, this is kind of a live on the podcast. I haven't ran this by either Kyle or Ian.
Do you want to just? We're about to end it. We can end the show and then unless it's just like relevant to.
No, it's not relevant to this. Right. I was thinking I would have a suggestion for our next experience point.
Oh fuck yeah! Okay, we'll discuss that. Everyone,
fuck yeah!
Thank you so much for joining us to discuss one of our favorite games, Bioshock. I'm so glad you got to play it, Taylor. It's like we've been talking about this for so long.
Since I think we started the show.
I feel like
we've talked about playing Bioshock.
Like Steve Young when he won the Super Bowl. He's like, "Get the monkey off my back," or whatever.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's super glad you played this. It's just, it's one of my favorite games ever. I think it's super special. I can't wait for Judas.
Me too.
My God.
I need to watch this trailer, but the artwork looks incredible.
It's taking so long.
I know.
It's like Cyberpunk.
It's like you said, they're taking their time to make a masterpiece.
You know? You remember when Cyberpunk released that original trailer of like the woman in with all the blades on her hands and stuff? That shit came out in like 8 years before it launched.
Yeah.
Judas is in that category where it's like, why did you show us this? So, any final words, gentlemen, about Bioshock before we sign it off?
Fun experience, man.
Welcome to the circus of value.
All right, everyone. We love you guys. Thank you all for listening, and we will catch you next week. Later.
See you guys. Stay safe.
Bye.